Hey there. Welcome back to Podcasting for Financial Professionals. I'm Virginia Elder, your host. Thank you for joining me today for this solo episode. If you've ever felt like compliance is the giant roadblock standing between you and a truly authentic podcast, this episode is for you. You and I both know that the entire purpose of you doing a podcast is to connect with your ideal audience. You want to sound like yourself and be authentic. Perhaps let them see behind the curtain a little. But every time you think about recording, that little voice in your head whispers, "What's compliance going to say?" And then suddenly you're second guessing everything. So today we're going to talk about how you can stay compliant without losing your creativity, personality, or authority, because compliance isn't the enemy. I've worked with a variety of compliance officers over the years for many clients, and it's not that complicated. Just to put it plainly, it is not that complicated. By the end of this episode, you'll have dozens of ways to talk about your business and services, share your perspective, and have the confidence to bring your whole self to your show, all while keeping your compliance officer happy. Most of the time, when we talk about compliance, we're referring to a financial advisor or a certified financial planner whose content is being quote unquote policed by their RIA or brokerage for legal reasons, of course, protections for consumers through the SEC and things like that. But bookkeepers, CPAs, and really anyone who's providing a financial service also has some guidelines to follow as established by the government with the purpose of protecting consumers. And so if you happen to be the lucky folk who is working in an organization under an RIA where no one else has a podcast, yeah, congratulations, you're the guinea pig. That means you're likely to experience some extra pushback. Not because you're doing anything wrong or because you're making unreasonable requests, but because compliance just simply does not understand podcasting yet. It's a new territory for many of them, and that often means you'll need to educate them as you go. You'll have to play nice, even when you want to bang your head on your desk, because they just need a little help as far as what the process is and how we can get this approved rather than, nope, never been done before, sorry, no can do. Now, one of the biggest misconceptions I hear from the compliance space is that they're asking to pre-approve podcast content as if the entire show is scripted word for word. And that's not how podcasting works. Podcasting is a conversation. It's storytelling. It's responding in real time. You can't predict where an interview or a discussion will lead. So here's what I want you to know. Interview podcasts will always need post-recording compliance review. And that's where the magic of editing comes in. If something is said either by you, by accident, or by your guest that isn't compliant, my team and I just remove it before compliance ever hears it. If compliance asks for additional edits after we've already done one round of edits and we've put together the whole thing and we think it's ready to go live, but then they review it and we get the big stop, that's okay. We take care of that too. And it's seriously not that complicated. We've been doing this since 2019, more than 6 years. editing episodes with compliance in mind, submitting finished content to compliance officers on behalf of our clients. That means video, audio, transcripts, titles, show notes, graphics, all packaged neatly for review. And here's a number for you: 0. A big fat 0. I have never had compliance flat out disallow an episode. 0 episodes have been shot down completely by compliance. Here's another number: 3, maybe. I'd say definitely fewer than 5 have required changes post compliance review, where we've had to edit out a phrase or a section and then resubmit the episode for approval. They review the second pass, approve it, and it goes live. Not a big deal. You're a financial professional. You are smart people. You've passed a bunch of complex exams to get your credentials. You know what you can say and when you're getting close to the line, right? So the key here isn't fear. It's not the rigor of the compliance review process. It's attitude of everyone involved: the host of the show, the compliance office, and anyone else involved. We've got to approach compliance conversations with curiosity and collaboration at the forefront. And even when we're met with a significant amount of pushback and perhaps someone who doesn't seem so collaborative, we have to lean in, and instead of asking, can we do this? We need to be asking, how can we do this? That small shift opens up possibility in any conversation and feels more open and creative rather than restrictive. So, moving through this barrier of compliance related brain freeze, I'm often approached with the next question: well, what can I talk about? So let's take this opportunity to do a little brainstorming together here. There are tons of ways to create compliant, engaging podcast content. Most importantly, ways that help you stand out from the other however many hundred financial podcasts that exist out there. Because yes, there are a lot of them, but none of them have your experience, your structure, your niche. And especially now in an economy careening toward recession, people are being extra cautious about who they hire and how much they pay. That means trust and familiarity are everything. Podcasting gives you both. Don't discount the value of an online parasocial relationship. When people feel like they know you, hiring you becomes the next natural step. So, here are some ideas around what you can talk about while staying compliant. Let's go through some actual examples here. So, 1, education, right? We all are experts on our own specific industry, topic, genre, niche. So the people listening need some education around what you do and how you help people, and kind of like what are the rules of your industry. So you can provide education that's in a podcast setting that's also compliant. You can explain financial principles without giving specific investment advice, because that would be a no-no. So you can talk about how to budget or how to invest with a variable income, or why investors behave irrationally in down markets. Pick your relevant topic of today based on the economy or based on a question you just received from a client, and create a podcast episode explaining and educating around that topic And it doesn't even have to necessarily be a storytelling episode. You don't have to mention anybody's names or anything like that. It's just education. Here's what I see, and here's why, and here's the facts around this issue. You're going to focus on the why, the strategy, and introducing concepts. You're going to stick to education, not prescription. The second option, mindset and philosophy. Talk about how you think about money, planning, or wealth building. Your inspiration for an episode can be something like, I believe financial planning is about personal values, not just numbers. Or money decisions aren't math problems, they're emotional ones. These overall concepts and mindset shifts help listeners understand your approach and your unique perspective and attract clients who share that mindset or appreciate that you're making them really think about the way they look at that particular topic. The third option here is storytelling. And I want to present a caveat here that it's safe storytelling. Safe storytelling is where you anonymize true stories and ensure that the story focuses on the lesson learned through the process, not the outcome. So you shield the identity revealing details and numbers and potentially insert pretend names or budget values. Concepts in this category are like, a client came to me feeling stuck. You can elaborate a little bit on this, created situation, right? That's extracted from a true story, but you need to modify things a little bit. And what we learned was that their plan wasn't the problem, their perspective was, right? So you could go on a lesson track as far as someone whose perspective was the issue, not necessarily their plan on paper. Another option in this safe storytelling section is like, here's a situation that taught me a lot about helping families through transitions. And you could even get really specific about the transition if it is a life stage or situation that many of your clients have been in, will be in, or talk to you about. In many cases, you can completely exclude names and numbers and just focus on the wisdom gleaned in that situation. All right, the fourth option is to provide listeners a behind the scenes peek at how you serve clients. Behind the scenes episodes include topics like, here's what happens during a discovery call. Here are things that we talk about. Here are things that I ask. Or why we spend more time on questions than answers in our first meeting. So, anything you can do to take someone behind the scenes of your process, what it's like to work with you, if there is an opportunity to record and anonymize a coaching situation or a snippet of a conversation that would give someone some background into the way you speak to your client and how you help them, that's really, really helpful. And in these BTS type episodes, you're not making promises. You're showcasing your processes and your professionalism. The fifth type of episode is some that promote and showcase your values and your ethics. People want to work with someone who believes in something. They want to get behind an idea that feels empowering and exciting and has some passion behind it. So come up with some bold statements that reflect your core values, like, we believe retirement should be designed around your purpose, not your portfolio. Or Here's why we prioritize simplicity over complexity in every financial plan. You speaking about your core values, that is 100% compliant. So, now that we've got some ideas, we did a little bit of brainstorming together about potential topics that are compliant, that are fully within your control, that you can pull from client stories or off the top of your head, or probably even get like ChatGPT or some AI to help you format out the episode. But with that being said, just realize that the possibilities don't stop there. So these were just a few ideas. If you want more guidance, I am open to a call anytime. And when you open up this possibility in your mind, if you find yourself stuck again with this thought of like, okay, great, these are good ideas, solid topics, I could see how this could work for me, but okay, now I'm having this fear around how do I be myself and showcase my personality while I'm talking about these topics, but maintain the professionalism that is so important to me? Or something like, how do I be relatable without revealing things about my personal life? And this is a really common place where a lot of professionals get stuck, not just financial professionals. It happens to attorneys, to doctors, to basically anyone who kind of feels like they put on a suit to go to work. And then this is that version of me. But then at home, I'm able to relax and, let my hair down a little bit and be myself. So this is completely normal. And maybe it was somehow carved into your mind during college or like the super early years of your career, trying to prove yourself. But many financial experts like you believe that being professional means keeping their personal lives completely off the table. But especially in the podcasting space, your listeners want to connect with you as a human. They want to get to know who this person is behind the mic. And you can do that without oversharing. Here's how. For one, you can use analogies from your everyday life. You can talk about how coaching my kids' soccer team reminded me about how powerful consistency is. And that applies whether you're teaching kids or you're managing money, right? So you can just draw the line there between a personal experience and your work. And you don't even have to talk about like your kids' names or how old they are or when you were coaching soccer or anything like that. You can keep pretty much all personal details off. But what the listener hears is, ooh, they're a parent too. Ooh, their kids in soccer too. Ooh, we're the same, right? And so they're immediately starting to draw that line of connection with you as the professional and with them as the consumer and matching that up between the two of you. So, another option for an analogy from your everyday life is like, I think about gardening, how I could talk about gardening taught me that patience and planning pay off. Just like you can't rush a harvest or a bloom, you cannot rush the compounding nature of consistent contributions over time, right? So you can draw the line between a personal experience and your work. Share that, hey, I like gardening, but we're also drawing that connection over to the way money is managed. The other thing you can do is use relatable family or life stories without revealing those details. So you can say something like, my teenager and I were talking about instant gratification the other day, and it struck me that this isn't just a challenge for kids. Often, adults expect instant gratification when it comes to managing their money or investing or budgeting, right? Or committing to a debt payoff plan. And you can elaborate on that too, right? Like you can set up a plan, it sounds great, and 2 months in, somebody is frustrated because they aren't seeing enough progress yet. Well, that's instant gratification. And just like a teenager would experience it, adults experience it too. And you could go on that storyline. So these examples mention, okay, you have a teenager or you coach soccer or you um, garden or whatever it is. And yet you didn't have to reveal any private details about your family, where you live, uh, your schedule, anything like that. And these topics are completely compliance safe. So this shows you can be authentic and trustworthy without being overly personal. Okay, so let's talk about the logistics and embracing the waiting game that probably is going to occur anytime compliance is involved. If your firm requires compliance review for every single episode, there's no way around it. You need flexibility in your workflow, and you're going to have to approach your podcast with very open arms, shall we say. You're going to have to expect that some published dates will move around. You control when you record and when you send the files to me and my team. I control when those files are processed and how quickly we can get them done. And then as we handle the editing, the show notes, the graphics, all the production, from there, we submit everything to compliance and then we wait. However, that waiting period does not mean that we sit still waiting for just one episode to get approved before you record the next one. You're going to batch your recordings. We are going to batch your edits. Compliance will receive a steady stream of episodes that they need to review and approve. And then together, all three of us, right? Me, you, compliance, anybody else who's involved, we create a machine. And you and I control the primary levers where we are just churning away. And then when compliance approves an episode, boom, it gets scheduled to go live. Here's what your schedule as the podcast host should look like, regardless of what compliance is doing. If you're producing a weekly show, you record 5 episodes per month. If you're publishing every other week, you record 3 episodes per month. This builds in a buffer for you, a bank of approved, ready to air episodes, of course, as soon as compliance approves them. And that buffer means you can take a vacation, you can manage a busy season, or handle some of life's curveballs without falling behind or worrying about whether there's an episode going live this week. And from the beginning, we'll strategize the timeline together so that everything flows smoothly. A beautiful machine of compliance approved content that creates connection with your ideal client, with you positioned as the authentic, trustworthy service provider they need. Beautiful. So, to put a bow on it, here's the truth. The 2 biggest roadblocks I see financial professionals face around compliance are: 1, they feel so restricted by the rules that all creativity just disappears, just boom, out the window. I can't, right? Or 2, they water down their message until it is so bland that it's just easily forgettable, right? Like, why even do a show? Bland content helps no one. In the same vein, content that is so broad that it could help everyone also helps no one. It doesn't serve your specific audience, your specific potential clients that you want to attract, and it certainly does not showcase your expertise. So, if you're going to put in the time and the money to create a podcast, we need to make it count. We need to approach every episode with curiosity, confidence, and creativity. And this is the whole point of the episode, is that compliance isn't here to crush your creativity. It's just there to give you structure. You absolutely can stay within the rules and make an impact, and you don't have to do it alone. If you're just starting to think about your show, don't worry about transcripts or how you're going to submit it to compliance or anything like that yet. We will cross that bridge together. When the time comes, I'm happy to hop on a Zoom call or an email chain with your compliance officer to make sure they understand your setup, structure, and that we work out a process for submission and approval and feedback and keep that loop of communication open so that it all makes sense to all parties. The bottom line is, don't quit being creative just because there are some rules. The rules don't end your vision. They shape it. They guide it. You just need a partner who understands how to work within them. If today's episode hit home for you, grab my free attraction messaging blueprint. It is a short, powerful workbook that helps you write a podcast intro, outro, and trailer that sounds authentic and professional, all while being compliance friendly. It'll help you tighten up your message, sound confident, and make every episode work hard for your business. The link is in the show notes. And remember, compliance does not have to kill your creativity. It just requires clear communication, a good process, and a little creative problem solving. Maybe some persuasion or persistence on our end. You've got this, and I've got your back.